Have you been wanting to get that C1 Advanced English certificate for a long time? Or maybe you're a teacher and you want to be the best possible teacher to your students, but you just don't know how to recommend a great way for them to study. Well, I've got you covered. Hi guys, I'm Izzy from English with Izzy. I'm your trusted Cambridge Advanced English teacher and also Cambridge exam preparation teacher. For about 6 years, I've been preparing students for the B2 First and their C1 Advanced Cambridge English exams, and you are no exception, my friends, so I'm going to help you today. Now, I don't want to waste any of your time, so this video is going to be specifically about how to start studying if you're going to be preparing for the B2 First, for the C1 Advanced, even for the C2 Proficiency Cambridge English exam. I'm talking the first steps you need to take and how to organize your time so that you can self-study for this exam. And I'm going to recommend lots of resources along the way, so make sure you stay until the very end. Let's dive right in. Now, you might be at the very beginning of your Cambridge exam preparation journey and you might not even be sure which exam you want to take. Well, although I know a lot of you already have an exam in mind, sometimes we are not the best judges of our own level, right? So I've met lots of students who are much closer to a B2 level and are still quite far in terms of their level of English to take the C1 exam. But on the other hand, I've also met some students who have an excellent level of English and underestimate themselves and are aiming for a much lower level than I think they could really get. So if you really have no idea where you are right now in terms of your English, I recommend going to the Cambridge English website. I'll leave the link below. And here you can actually do a level test and they'll tell you more or less which exact exam you are ready to prepare for. So let me go through this quickly just so you can see what the results look like. Can I park here? Only for half an hour. Well, I'm glad I didn't get any of them wrong because that would have been a little bit embarrassing as I did it here on YouTube with you guys, but you get the idea. It will tell you which exact exam you are ready to prepare for. It may say B2 First. Again, this is not a way to get you down, but just to be a little bit more realistic, to have an idea of what your own level is. Now, once you've decided which exam you want to take, we have to start studying. And you might be thinking, Izzy, where on earth do I start? And I think this is where students have the biggest struggle. And sometimes it's the reason that they don't even start at all, right? If you're watching this, maybe you've been wanting to take this exam for a while, but you haven't started because you don't know how. Now, the first thing we need to do is to create a study plan. With no organization, with no idea of how to manage our time or what to work on, it's nearly impossible to start. So having a chart or having a table or something like this, so you can at least plan which days you're going to study and what you're going to be studying on each day, is absolutely fundamental. But before we get to the study plan itself, what we really need to do is find out where our weaknesses are. As you saw on the study plan that I give to my students and give to lots of people who buy my course, there are not specific topics that we need to study each day. And why? Because different people have to focus on different areas. There's no point in focusing on pronunciation or me adding pronunciation as a priority when someone has excellent pronunciation already in English, right? So to do this in the most time-effective way possible, the first thing we need to do is identify your weaknesses. How can we identify our weaknesses? Well, the first thing you're going to do is take a test, more specifically to do a sample paper. So if you have a look here on the Cambridge English website, you will see that they already have exams that you can download for free. They have 2 sample papers for each exam. So if you go to exams and tests, choose the one you want, whether it be B2 First or C1 Advanced. Click here on exam format and you can download a sample paper here. Now, it will be harder to do the speaking and to do the writing part at home, but if you can at least do reading, use of English and listening, because it comes with all the audios and it comes with all the answers, you can then correct your own test and see how well you're doing. Very soon, I'm going to give you some resources you can use to practice your writing and speaking as well, so stay with me. All right, so let's fast forward a little bit. You've done a past paper, you've corrected your past paper, and you've realized, for example, that in use of English part 4, you had an especially difficult time, right? When you had to use the keyword and transform the sentence, perhaps you made lots of mistakes. Well, what kinds of mistakes were you making? Were they grammar mistakes? Were they mistakes to do with phrasal verbs you didn't know? where there may be some collocations or fixed expressions that you just could not predict would be the answer, well, it's not a bad thing to fail a practice test because it shows us what we need to work on. So use this as a learning opportunity. Write down, I need to practice phrasal verbs. I need to practice use of English part 4. I need to practice keyword transformation. And that is going to be one of your priorities, okay? So as you can see here on my study plan, we're going to always study one of our priorities during our study session. So you might do a phrasal verb activity here. Once you've done it, you can check it off. But of course, we can't forget the other parts of the exam because we always have to practice to improve. So you might do a complete reading and use of English paper, for example, or if you decide to grab a textbook, you might do 2 or 3 pages of one unit of your textbook, okay? The important thing is to write it down because when you can see what you have to study, you're much more likely to continue. All right, so we've gone through taking a test, we've gone through doing a practice paper and finding out your weaknesses. Now, what do we do once we've found out our weaknesses? Well, there are different areas we have to work on in exam preparation, right? We have to work on our writing skills, our speaking skills, our reading, our grammar, and also our listening skills. So let's start with the writing part of the exam. How can we slowly work on our writing skills to get ready for your English exam? Well, there are a number of things that you can do. Of course, as practice makes progress, what we need to do is to practice. So let me show you this fantastic website that Cambridge offers for free. It's called writeandimprove.com. I selected the advanced section here, so you can select intermediate, for example. They've got a test zone as well for B2 first. And what you're going to do is you're going to choose the task here. So they don't have as many options yet for C1 Advanced as they do for B2 First. So as you can see here, the word limit is higher than in the C1 Advanced exam, but it gives you a chance to have a go at writing for free and for them to give you feedback on your writing. Another excellent tool I highly recommend, you guys, if you watched one of my videos, you'll know I'm a big fan of this already, is ChatGPT. You can write an essay, and this is great for really understanding where your grammar and vocabulary mistakes are. So if I write a sentence here, for example, I goed to the beach last week. You can actually paste the exam task, paste your answer, and you can ask for feedback on your answer. So you might say, for example, give me feedback on my English sentence and correct it. Of course, this is just a very simple sentence to show you how it could work. And it's telling me exactly where my mistakes are, right? The past tense of go is went. Here is the correct sentence. I went to the beach last week. So although this might not be able to give you exam style feedback like an examiner would or like I would if you choose to have your writings corrected by me, it's a great free resource for you to at least see where your mistakes are. And again, we can write those common mistakes in our priorities list, right? If you struggle with tenses, maybe studying grammar is something that needs to be your priority for when you're going to take the exam. What's really important also when it comes to the writing exam is understanding exactly what the Cambridge examiners are looking for. So you need to read lots of model answers, read student answers, so you become very familiar with the structure of writing tasks for your exam. I've also got a very comprehensive writing guide. If you're realizing I have no idea how to do a B2 First or C1 Advanced writing, then I have a complete step-by-step guide which will tell you everything you need to know and show you how to do it yourself. Let's go on to speaking now, which again is one of the harder areas that you can really work on by yourself without a partner, but it is not impossible at all. So the first thing that you could do is find a speaking buddy, find people to practice English with on a daily basis, right? The more you speak, the more comfortable you will get speaking in English and the more prepared you will be for your exam. If you don't have anyone to speak with or you're still really shy, then shadowing is one of my favorite activities. Let's have a look at TED Talks because they're interesting. There are excellent speakers that we can imitate, so it's a win-win situation. For example, how to find humor in life. What you can do is you can find the transcript of the video so we can see in text exactly what the people are saying, and we're going to try and imitate the people who are speaking so we can practice our speaking skills like this.
Every day,
I speak
to my beautiful and brilliant cousin Orna, who lives in Israel.
So the best way to do this would be to listen to the person saying the first sentence and then go back to the beginning and repeat it with them. That way you learn to copy the sounds of native speakers, you understand the rhythm, and you also hear the correct pronunciation of each word. What you can also do, a really simple way of incorporating speaking into your everyday life, is just by reading out loud. If you're reading on your phone, if you've opened a book, don't read it in your head, but speak. It's a really simple way just to get your mouth used to speaking in English, which can sometimes be a really uncomfortable thing, right? When we don't practice very much. So there's no excuse if you don't have anyone to practice with, because there are ways to improve your speaking and improve your pronunciation at home. Now, the third thing we're going to talk about today is reading and use of English. You might be dreading this part of the exam. It's a really long paper, about an hour and a half in the exam. You have to read through multiple long texts and also do some kind of sneaky grammar exercises. So I can understand why you wouldn't be looking forward to it. When it comes to reading specifically, I've noticed that students are not always used to reading long texts. So when they have to read 3 or 4 long texts, plus do lots of exercises in just an hour and a half and try to find the answers, it can be quite a scary and an overwhelming task, right? But Cambridge does use a select few websites for inspiration when it comes to the readings in the Cambridge exam. And in fact, lots of texts that are actually used in the reading and use of English exam are adapted from articles on the Guardian website and also on the National Geographic. So let me share it with you. Let me show you here which ones I'm talking about. If you head to theguardian.com and maybe incorporate a few of these articles into your reading time every week, not just articles that you're interested in, but choose other ones as well. Things about the environment, for example, things about movies, things about books, to push yourself outside of your comfort zone. If we head to the National Geographic, we also have a generous selection of articles for free here, so you can read them to practice your reading skills specifically for the B2 First and C1 Advanced exams, okay? When it comes to the use of English part of the exam, the focus is mostly on vocabulary, as we've seen in the reading exercise, but also on grammar. So if you're struggling a lot with the grammar aspects of questions and use of English, I highly recommend getting a book or finding a way to boost your grammar. This book is actually a good one here, Grammar and Vocabulary for Advanced. And also for first, if you're planning to take the first exam, because it was created specifically for the C1 Advanced exam. So half of it is exclusively grammar for the C1 Advanced, and the other half is pure vocabulary for the C1 Advanced. So it's a great place to start if you realize that you really need to boost your language skills. However, a book which is even better and goes into much more detail when it comes to grammar is this book here, Advanced Grammar in Use. It's considered the grammar Bible when it comes to English, and it's really great if grammar is your weak point. So you could go through one unit in your study session and little by little brush up on those grammar skills. Now, the last section I want to mention today is the listening exam. And you might be thinking, oh, Izzy, but I can just watch Netflix. I can watch YouTube. That's how I practice my listening. No. Well, I'm not going to say no, because I think any contact with English is always positive, but we can't just focus on one aspect, right? We need to also listen to longer texts. We need to listen to topics which we maybe don't listen to on a regular basis. What's also important is making sure that when we practice our listening skills, we're not only using resources where there is also video. So for example, when we're watching YouTube, when we're watching Netflix, we can also see people's expressions and see their reactions, right? So it's easier to understand what is happening, even if we don't understand every word. Which is why listening to podcasts, listening to audiobooks are often more recommended when it comes to really fine-tuning your listening skills, because you have to pay much more attention because you don't have those visual cues. So don't be lazy. Push yourself out of your comfort zone, even though it's tricky, and incorporate some of these activities into your weekly study plan, obviously prioritizing the ones that you don't perform so well in when you're practicing for the exam. Now, the final thing I'm going to mention, and the final thing that you absolutely should include in your study plan, is practice exercises and past papers. Just like with anything, the more you practice, the better you'll get. So get your hands on a bunch of past paper books. Cambridge has a whole selection that you can buy from most bookshops. Online, you'll find dozens of websites as well where you can do exercises and they will correct them instantly. The only issue is they're not always authentic representations of past papers. So still, always good practice, but always best to go for Cambridge past papers. You also might be thinking, Izzy, I'm realizing that I'm at the very beginning of my journey and I really need to learn the strategies for the exam because I have no idea what the Cambridge exam is really asking for. Well, for those of you who are ready to start their Cambridge exam preparation journey and are tired of having lots of ideas and so many resources and you just don't know how to start, take a look at this thing I've been working on. So I've squeezed my 6 years of Cambridge English teaching experience into this online course, which contains all of the strategies that I've ever taught all of my students, from the reading and use of English exam, as you can see here. I think one of the, I don't look my best in this image right here. We've got exercises that you can do as well. More importantly, I teach you step by step exactly what you need to do and how you need to do it for every part of the exam. We cover reading as well, which I know is a kind of scary part of the exam. But again, I know textbooks don't work for everyone. Sometimes seeing hundreds of pages of text can be a bit overwhelming. So this video course, accompanied by lots of videos where I show you exactly how I do it with all my notes, student examples, writing corrections, mock exams that I've done with students, and also, more importantly, a group chat so you can ask me questions anytime you want. It's also there if you want it, okay? So instead of struggling on your own, at least there's the option of a step-by-step process, which I wish I had had when I first started teaching and I was completely lost. This is also a great resource for you teachers out there who still have a little bit to learn when it comes to Cambridge English exam. All right, guys, I'm not going to waste any of your time. I think I covered everything that I need to. A lot of time goes into these videos and I'm still just one teeny tiny person doing everything in this company. I'm editing, I'm teaching the lessons, I'm creating the courses. So I would really appreciate if you could subscribe or at least give this video a like and a comment, because that's a really simple way that you can help my teeny tiny business. Again, don't forget that I've linked all of the resources that I've mentioned down below, as well as a free version of my course that you can try out. If you're thinking, hey Izzy, I still don't know you, you're this random face on the internet that I've just seen. Well, I completely understand that, which is why I have this free version, so you can get to know me a bit better and see that these strategies really do work. And I would also love to have a conversation with you in the comments. So if there's anything that you're struggling with when it comes to the exam, or you have any ideas when it comes to these videos, write them down below because I'm all ears. All right. Thank you guys for making it to the very end. You survived. You're a warrior. And we'll see each other in the next video. Don't forget, stay curious, stay learning. Although